Welcome, everyone, to the First Team NFL Draft and College Football Podcast, bringing you all a little bit of insight into some of the top football players in the entire country. Of course, we focus on future NFL players as well, some of the favorite NFL draft prospects that you all will need to know over the next few years. And I have a really fun one because I think I'm trying to think back on this one, but I think this is the first brother combination that I have interviewed in the past because I had Clark
Yes,
Phillips,
sir.
of course, former great for the Utah Utes, now with the Atlanta Falcons on the podcast in the past. I have his younger brother, Mr. Bryce Phillips, who's
Yes,
a star
sir.
cornerback out of Tennessee State, one of the top defensive backs on the FCS level coming back in 2023. Bryce, I appreciate you, man, coming on the
Appreciate
podcast.
you.
How's everything been? How's the offseason treating you so far, man?
Everything's been pretty good. It's been smooth. It's been rolling smooth. Just been working out, catching up, and staying in shape and getting ready to start camp in a few days.
Yeah, man. When does camp officially start? Is it later this week for you?
Yeah, it'll probably most likely be starting Thursday. Our teammates have
Nice.
been down, but we've been getting updates, and it's looking like Thursday we're gonna start practice and meetings and all that stuff and get rolling.
I love it, man. How much looking forward are you to this season? I know you just had a really nice 2022 season, obviously, but how excited are you just to be able to get back with the guys and really start to
Yeah,
build on what you were able to foundationally put on the field last year?
man, it's unexplainable. I feel like this is the season where it's all gonna come together, and I'm just gonna have a great season. I've been working, I've been training all my life, but I got so many big games that I feel like I could really show my talents and what I'm supposed to do.
When I know you have a really fascinating backstory, and we'll get into obviously your family. You come from a very deep football family, and we already talked a little bit about your brother, who's now going to be a star in the NFL, very, very in the near future here. But I want to ask you because I had spoken to your dad before, and this was years ago now, and he had kind of given me heads up that Clark has a little brother. He's going to end up being a really good football player, but the college career maybe didn't get off to the start that you would have wanted because of COVID and a little bit of kind of things getting backlogged. And because you were out in Orange Lutheran, which is one of the best high schools for people out there that,
Yes, sir.
just foundationally play great football out in California. Unfortunately, you ran into COVID with the 2020 season that was kind of put to rest, and that kind of delayed college a little bit as far as maybe the upside of where you could have gone. So can you take us just through, I guess, fighting through COVID and having to go the JUCO route
hmm
first out of Orange Lutheran?
Well, coming out of high school, out of Orange Lutheran, it was kind of tough. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, whether I want to go to JUCO or I want to, go to another place or like a D2 school. I had like a D2 offer. I ended up deciding to go to JUCO, and so that was the best decision I ever made in my life because I loved the coach there. It was a coach that we knew out of high school at Buena Park, and he was a first year head coach. And he had this new thing where we showed up to the first meeting where he'll be like, "We're getting guys in and out." This is first time coaching, but he brought us all in and out, and that was like the thing that really like hooked me on to Santa Ana College. And after that, it just been all gas, no breaks. I started balling out. I was working out every day during the season. Like even when we weren't playing, when we were playing, I worked out every single day before games and practices, after practices. And it was just a struggle. It was a grind, but I ended up getting off at the end of the season, and I'm going to Tennessee State. And the rest is history.
Yeah, man, and the history has obviously worked out to say the least. Bryce, I'd love to hear just a little bit about that experience because I know you said that it was a blessing for you to obviously get that opportunity at Santa
Yeah,
Ana, and I know that you talked about the coach that you obviously worked with that was a instrumental, obviously, in getting
yeah,
to where you are
definitely.
now. But I've talked to a lot of kids in the past. I think of one interview I did a few years ago with Darwin Thompson, who was drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, and he talked a lot about the JUCO route and how a lot of guys don't make it, right? And it's a little bit
Don't.
of a dog eat dog world, and it really kind of works that mentality and kind of pushes you to the brink. What are a couple things maybe that you learned during that time about yourself or about hard work? Like, what were a couple lasting, I guess, memories of that time?
I feel like I learned a lot about myself with like discipline and just wanted it for myself because there's so many guys that can play, and everybody I feel like harps on this, and everybody says that, but I feel like half the team on my JUCO squad could play at Tennessee State and start if they had everything together. But they didn't have the school. People didn't go to school. People didn't do the small stuff. And believe it or not, we had study hall at JUCO, and a lot of people didn't go. But people wouldn't think that you'll have that in D1 school, but we do, and we had that at junior college. And so I feel like I learned discipline, hard work. I really learned hard work in those years, and hard work. That's really all I learned. A lot of it.
I'm really excited about where Tennessee State's going because I know a lot of people talk about like Eddie George as the head coach, obviously, right? And where he's taking this program. You guys have a quiet amount of a lot of talent on that roster, which is very interesting from an NFL perspective. Your first year there, 2022, you end up being a all conference second team selection, all newcomer teams. So you come in and you have a nice impact. Obviously, first year for Tennessee State. Can you take me through a little bit of your success in that first season and how excited you are to be a part of this program that is building to much higher heights moving forward?
hmm Well, I give credit to my coaches, Coach Nutt and Coach Fisher, and really mainly Coach Nutt. He pushes me every day in practice, and he always tells me, "Don't get complacent." I feel like every game I came in with that mindset, and I took it play by play, and that's what I'm trying to do now. Take it day by day, play by play, and just maximize every rep I get. And the accolades, they weren't even they're my goals to get accolades, but the end of the season are gonna come. I'm just worrying about what I have in front of me each day.
Well, I need to ask, man, are so you're at Tennessee now, which is in
hmm
Central Time, but it's a lot more east, obviously, than
Yeah, it is.
California. Your brother's in Atlanta. Your parents have to be spending a lot more time here, I guess, near the East Coast coming this season, man. A lot more time.
Yeah,
That's
right.
funny, man. I
It
just
is.
always thought about that because I'm like two California guys. Because I know Clark was originally he was committed to Ohio State first,
Ohio
right? And then
State, yeah.
eventually he went to Utah. So I know that you guys obviously aren't afraid to go east, but it's just very interesting that that's going to kind of be the travel schedule for
Now we're
this
both
upcoming
out here.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
closer to
So
me.
let me ask you, Bryce, because I almost called you Clark because you actually look a lot like your brother. I don't know if you ever got that
Yeah,
before.
we're twins.
Well, so you are a little bit different than your brother. Your brother was 5'9" and some change. Yours listed at 6'1", 185 pounds. So you're a little bit of a longer corner comparative. But how beneficial is it to you to have your brother with you, right? To have a guy that has been there, done that, technically very refined, the ability to learn from someone like that.
Well, I feel like he set the trail. I just put the pavement down. Like I followed all throughout his steps, and with everything, people, it's a blessing, really. To be honest, people don't really get it, but I get it, and I started getting it when I got older, about 17, 18. Like it's a blessing. Our brother did it all, and I can learn from his mistakes, and I should be doing everything that he did wrong. I should be doing it right, and so I just took from him and took all the things he taught me, the hard work piece and everything, and I'm just better myself from that.
I hate because I watch a lot of FCS players, a lot of Division two players, some of the lower levels, and there is this big stigma around FCS football. And
Yes, there
every
is.
single year, I'm like, can we talk more about all these great football players every single year? I mean, I think we just had the most FCS players drafted 2 years ago
Yeah, we did.
in the history of the NFL draft.
After
Can
that
you
COVID
talk to
year.
me a little bit about because you play against a lot of great competition?
hmm
How talented is the FCS actually? Because I feel like they don't give that division, that subdivision, whatever you want to call it, the recognition that you guys deserve.
I feel like it's talent everywhere. The main difference is the trenches, but skill players, this guys everywhere. The hardest team I played receiver wise probably Jackson State FCS. They had some guys, they had some fast guys, and I've guarded pro guys, I guarded NFL guys, I guarded college guys, FBS guys in the league that are right now, and there's some guys that are real good on that level in
Yeah.
FCS. And so yeah, it's talent everywhere for
Well,
sure.
I would love to hear about the film study side of playing the cornerback position because I know people just think about, height, length, speed, and yes, you
hmm
need all those things, but also the film study, right? Like if a guy's cutting down a split, what's coming at me? They're telegraphing a route a little bit, maybe, like what
Yeah.
their tells are as a wide receiver. How important has film study been for you, Bryce, developing into the player you are? And then kind of a second part to that is there any players that you do like to watch a ton that you feel like really
Yeah.
you kind of take things from their game a little bit?
Film study is vital to me. If you go into a game knowing what your receiver's gonna do and knowing all the routes they do, it's gonna be like you're doing it for them. So if you know they only do 5 routes, they only do a post, they do a comeback, and they do a hitch. You know it's gonna be a post, comeback, or a hitch, and you could play it off that, and you could play it by the splits and how they're lined up. Some people like to put their hands up. Some people more relaxed when you know they're not getting the ball. And so watching film, it's gonna help them make plays, way more plays.
And are there any players that you do like to watch by any chance? Because again, like I'm sure
hmm
maybe you've watched your brother a little bit, but I
Yeah.
just think of like the body type difference, right? Like I imagine that
hmm
maybe you want to watch somebody that's a little bit more long, a guy
Yeah.
that plays a little bit more similar? Are there any guys that maybe you watch a ton?
I watch Jalen Ramsey, but I mainly watch a lot of I watch a lot of college guys. Like I watch Christian Gonzalez, I watch K State, I watch Sauce Garner, and not really looking up to him, but I feel like I play similar to Christian Gonzalez. We're real physical. We're about the same size, and we got the same tendencies. We're press corners, and we're strong. So I kind of favor him a little bit. I feel like.
My last couple of questions are obviously fast forwarding to this season. I know that you guys are developing something that I think is going to end up being really great. Obviously, under the coaching staff you have and the talent you guys have, you open up with a pretty tough challenge, man. You go into South Bend to play against Notre Dame. How excited are you to be able to get out to South Bend and be able to battle against one of the better programs in the country, obviously, in the season?
Man, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a movie. I can't even explain how excited I am. Just show up with your popcorn.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I'm super excited. I actually was messaging your dad the other day. I think I'm probably going to be at that game. So I look forward to hopefully meeting you down
That's
there
cool.
and seeing you have a great game, obviously. My last question, or actually I might have two more. I'll let you know in a second. But just kind of setting standards and goals for the 2023 season coming up. With you starting fall camp here very shortly, what are some things that you as a player want to accomplish and some team goals that you might have as well? Like what would make it a successful season for you coming up this year?
Well, first team goals. I want us to make it far in the playoffs and compete for a natty. Personal goals. I want to be All American, SS All American. Plain and simple.
I love it, man. I love it. The great goals and very straightforward, which is what it should be. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Just knowing Clark the way I did, kind of through his process, man, he was always a grinder. So I'm not surprised that you're the same way.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you is you're only going to be a junior this year. So this might be more a 2025 NFL draft question than a 2024 potentially, depending on how season goes, I'm sure. But just kind of looking forward and knowing you've already seen your brother go to the NFL and make that type of jump, and seeing that with the season you just had and building off of that could be a reality for you eventually to play professional football as well. Just how much of a blessing is that? Just kind of going through what you've gone through, the journey you've had so far, and to know that the light at the end of the tunnel might be to also play professional football like your family's already kind of instilling in you a little bit.
Well, it is truly a blessing, but when you work for this like all your life, I feel like it's like expected, like you want to do this, but it's gonna happen because we've been working 15, 20 years, really all our life for this, and we dedicated our whole life to football and to go pro. So it's something that it's gonna be heartbreaking if it doesn't happen, but we always have a backup plan. But the plan is to go to NFL.
And I think that's going to be a goal that you're going to succeed in, obviously, in the very near future. But of course, 2023 season coming up. If you all have not watched any of Tennessee State from this last year, make sure you get your eyes on number 0 on defense. I love the number, by the way, a little sub-zero action there. Bryce Phillips, star cornerback, Tennessee State. He'll be live in South Bend, Indiana, the first game of his season as well this year in week 1. Bryce, I appreciate you for hopping on the podcast, man. Huge fan of your game. Love your family. Thank you so much for joining the show, man, and best of luck this upcoming season.
Make sure you check out BetOnline for all of your sports betting needs. For anything that I do betting related, I go on over to betonline.ag and I use promo code BELIEVE50. BetOnline has all of the latest updated odds for the NFL and college football seasons. Anything you need, whether it's futures, live in-game betting, no matter what, your football betting needs are met at BetOnline. And again, make sure you use that promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50 to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.